Hello and welcome to the Curiosity and Consciousness podcast with me, Karen Maloney. I am your host, and the intention of this podcast is to help us open our minds, get curious about ourselves, and to raise our vibration and consciousness levels. Through these conversations, we hope that you will go on an inward journey to discover the truth of who you are and to become aware of your own energy and vibration. We have the power to consciously create our lives, but we need to wake up to this fact before we can begin the process and learn the key of self-responsibility. Check out the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Acast, Castbox, or whatever platform you listen on, and please like, subscribe, and share the podcast. Leave a review, leave a rating, as this will help it to reach more people. Check out my website as well, Soul Power Light, www.soulpowerlight.com. Hello everybody, welcome. How are you all doing? How is life? How are you all keeping? How are you all adjusting? How are you all growing and evolving? Curious to know, pop me a message, fill me in. This week it is moi joining you, and I wanted to talk about inside out living and cultivating self-approval from within. And sometimes when we use that word self-approving or anything, self-love, self-care, self-responsibility, often the automatic assumption people can think is that it is egotistical, it is selfish, it is not thinking of others, and all these multitude of things. And the reality is, well, yes, it's easy to think that way when you possibly haven't done any inner reflection work. It's really easy to jump to the egoic conclusion because, you know, there are lots of people who, yes, do choose to act selfishly and from a superiority complex and from a position of power. And, you know, that's their choice. But the true self-approval and self-responsibility and self-care is actually such powerful work, because it is this coming back to yourself, really knowing yourself, knowing that you are more than your physical world and the possessions you have and what you gain and what you earn and what you think and how many X, Y, and Zs you have. It is much bigger than our physical world, our physical body, or our physical material world and possessions. So when you have this approval from within, it's not even digging around, but it's a releasing and a letting go of the attachment to these exterior titles or things or identity, really. And that egoic mind that actually then you connect to a different essence, whether you call it God, the universe, your soul, your core, your essence, your being, your higher self. And it's from that place when you connect to that energy. And it is an energy, it's an inner knowing, it's an experience. You can't show it to anyone per se, but you can know it deeply, madly, truly for yourself. And when you do, you realize the importance of it, because then when you connect to that within you, you can see that and appreciate that in every other. And it's quite the opposite of ego and superiority. It's actually that oneness, that sameness, that essence at our core I'm talking about. Yes, externally we all look different, we all do different things, and that's fine, but internally we're all the same. So this is the importance of doing inner work and having that self-approval from within, because as well, when you think about it, no matter how many people we have in our life, a partner, no partner, best friends, family, kids, whoever, no matter who we have in our life, we actually are the only ones who live in our world. And I mean, again, that internal world. inside of our head, inside of our heart. And no matter how close we get to another or how much we share with another, they can still never fully understand our world, and vice versa. Because again, if you think about it, even if, say, an accident happened and you and your best friend or your partner or your parent or whoever were looking at it, both of you would see the exact same scenario with two slightly different stories. Because again, we're constantly absorbing things and putting meaning to things based on our own experiences, our own interpretation, our own filters, and they are unique to each of us. And when you think about it as well, we all have needs. As basic humans, we all have needs. But again, we're often taught that we can't fulfill them ourselves, and therefore we need to look externally. And the way we do that is through what we have, what we do for a job, what we own, if we're in a relationship or not, and all these things. And that's where we get our sense of approval and validation. Because when you think about it, we all have this need to belong. And if we feel we don't fit other expectations or what we should or shouldn't do, well, there's that fear of being rejected, that fear of being outcasted. So we just do it. But the thing about it is, when you live for that external validation, it's shaky ground, it's unstable, and it's not sustainable, because we feel like a chameleon. Because depending on the situation, the scenario, where we are, who we're with, we feel like we need to edit or alter or mold ourselves or censor ourselves, and we can put on these different personas. And again, we all do this. We all carry limiting beliefs and beliefs that do not serve us, and conditioning and programming that do not serve us. But again, this comes back to the importance of the inner work, because we're completely blind and oblivious to it until we start to ask self-inquiry questions. And someone may ask, well, why would you bother, Karen? Why bother doing the inner work or asking these questions if that leads to discoveries that maybe might be uncomfortable or might leave you questioning certain things in your life or certain things that you do, or again, these programming, whether cultural or societal or educational or whatever. And the reason why we would do it, and again, it's experiential when we do it and we really feel and know the benefits, it is because when we don't do it like that, we're constantly striving, feeling like we have to be that chameleon and change and mold in order to be accepted. So when we're doing that, it'll never be enough. It'll never be enough, because the goalposts are always changing. So we will say things like, oh, well, when I get a relationship, then I'm going to feel whole and complete. And then you might get a relationship and it's, great in the beginning. And then you're like, you have this feeling again. Or when you earn X amount of money, you will feel better and at ease. And again, you get there and it's like, fine for a while, but there's this feeling again. And that's because the goalposts always change. Because we think when we get to X, Y, or Z, that's it. We'll be, boom, we'll have landed. Everyone will love us. Everyone will approve of us. We'll be all good. We'll never be rejected again. We'll be accepted. Won't be the outcast. Amazing. Winning at life. But you hear it all the time from the most successful people, even loads of celebrities who have all the money and the fame in the world, that everyone thinks is the epitome of success in life. And then you realize and you hear so many of their stories and how miserable they are, and so many take their lives. Because again, it's that constant trying to be someone for everyone, and it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting, because when we're constantly doing that, we actually completely and utterly lose sight of who we truly are. We have no idea who we are, who we're meant to be, because we're constantly feeling like we need to fit in and mold. So when we get to know and approve of ourselves, no matter what, that means that full acceptance and embracing of ourselves, of all our mess ups in life. It's that ultimate not rejecting or abandoning ourselves, because the reality is, when we live from the outside in and living for the externals, there will always be rejection. There will always be challenges. There will always be difficulties. There will always be hurdles. That is life. There will always be pain. And that is applicable to every single person all around the world, no matter how much money you have, what job you do, how much you own, how great life is, how many holidays you take. We will all face those aspects of life. So it's that acceptance of that part and not rejecting or abandoning ourselves in the process. Because again, that's the greatest pain. To reject or abandon ourselves, never mind being rejected by someone else, but that is actually the true pain when we reject ourselves. And that's what we do every time that we don't feel good enough, we feel less than, we feel like a failure. But according to who? If you've got your back, and again, that self-approval, it is that full compassion and acceptance and realizing that, yeah, I am human. I am going to mess up. I am going to make mistakes. I am going to be rejected. But I'm not going to reject myself in the process. I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to see, what can I do? Is there something I need to learn? Is there something I need to do? How can I grow? How can I evolve? How can I learn from this pain or this challenge or this difficulty? How can I expand? And that's the beauty. And that is building that inner resilience and that inner belief and that inner faith that no matter what you face, what happens, that you know you have the resources to move forward again. And also, like I said at the start, it is that other energy, that essence, that divine core that is the truth of all of us. We can know and accept that and allow that to filter through to us to support us as well. We don't have to reject it or deny it. We literally can allow it and allow it to guide us and bring creative solutions and support to us no matter what. And I know I've mentioned it briefly before, but that was one of the hardest things when I went through the breakup with my ex, who just sent an email and disappeared, and I lost all my possessions, everything I owned, because we had moved abroad and none of my stuff arrived back. But throughout all that, it was really traumatic when I lost literally everything on the external, the relationship and all my possessions. So I was like, oh my God, I felt swallowed up whole by life, by the world. I was just like, oh, and I didn't think there was any way I could ever climb out of that hole I felt in. But then, after some time, I realized, oh, it's actually not anything to do with the externals. Like, yes, they can augment your life and support you, but actually life is not anything about the externals. We don't come here to slave away, to earn all this money, to hoard all these things and then just die. That's the teeny part of life. That's not the truth of life. We're here to actually live and have all these experiences, good and bad. But during that time, that's literally an insight that came through so clear. And actually the hardest part of all of that was that I abandoned myself in the process. I turned to that instant victimization and taking all the blame on myself of, if I had only done this, why did I do that? Why did I say this? And that's not the truth, because I was berating myself for something that someone else did. And when we live our lives putting our sense of self-worth and value and validation and approval in the externals, which we do unknowingly, well, like I said, it's shaky ground. It can change any second, no matter what we think. It can look very stable, but it can change overnight. And then you're left in a gaping hole. So that's the beauty, that then when these tsunamis come and knock you, yeah, they'll knock you, but they won't knock you that low that you lose yourself as well. And when we have that self-belief, and like I mentioned, the faith again, we know we can get up. We have this strength, this other energy, because we know our true core. We know who we are, and we're not afraid to be ourselves And the ultimate experience and realization and insight and knowing from really having our own back and really coming into this place of supporting ourselves 100% with compassion and love and acceptance and kind words. The ultimate realization that you come to as well is, I'm enough. It's like, oh, I am enough. And if I am not good enough in someone else's eyes for X job or X promotion or X relationship or whatever it is, well then also there's that acceptance. It's like, well, that's totally fine because I know I'm enough. And if that's not in alignment, that's okay. I know it's not the right thing for me. So I go check another job, or, I go on another date, or I do whatever it is I need to do until you find that alignment. So that's the ultimate. That is the ultimate of I am enough. And that is the ultimate, because when you live from that place, then it is living life in a different way. It is living life from the inside out. And like I said, it is not living from that egoic mind. It is living from the sense of oneness and unity. There is no superiority. And again, it's just knowing our value. It's just having healthy boundaries to know when to walk away, or to know when to draw the line, or to know when go, no, this is not behavior or language or conversation that I'm willing to accept, knowing that it affects you or brings you down. And yes, we can know the obvious stuff if someone says something really hurtful or does an action really hurtful. But the reality is we all accept so much underlying kind of subtle lower vibrational energies that actually suck the life force out of us over a longer period of time. And like I said before, when we're constantly trying to meet someone else's expectations, we're just constantly going to feel frazzled, burnt out, full of anxiety, fear, depressed, because we have no idea of who the hell we're meant to be. We don't have our own back. We don't realize that we are enough exactly as we are. I remember years ago as well, in an old job, I was feeling really undervalued and underpaid and all these kind of things. And I had mentioned it to my boss. We'd set up a meeting. I wanted a pay rise, and I spent so long looking into and gaining evidence of, how much I work and all the effort I was putting in and how everything had grown and all these kind of things, getting my argument together, my case. And I was really confident going in, and I remember, yes, I'd had a little Google on what a role similar to mine, my experience would be at, but I actually hadn't spent any time on what I did want. So I was confident in that going in. And then I remember, I started arguing my case and my points, and all of a sudden my boss just stopped me, and he was just like, okay, Karen, tell me, so what do you want? And that question just absolutely floored me, because yes, I had done a quick Google on, what was the going rate or salary for someone in my position and with my experience. But other than that, I had not actually taken any time to question, well, what is it that I really want? So he absolutely stumped me. But there was a bigger underlying issue as well that was going on, which is a conditioning, which was a limiting belief. It was in my head that, well, he's the expert. He's the boss. He should know what my value is. He should know what I'm worth and what I should be paying, knowing the work that I'm doing and the experience and the effort I'm putting in. That was the bigger mind-boggling part for me. And now it just makes me laugh so much, because that is just total and utter drivel. Like, we can't live like that. Like, imagine going around thinking everyone else knows my value better than me. This is what we do. And this is why it's so important to connect to our truth, to know ourselves. Because if I had done that, and it's fine. I mean, I could throw out a figure. Like I said, I had a quick Google, but it was that bigger, deeper piece, the subconscious underlying piece, that's a general message in society that, well, someone else should know better than me. And that's giving away our power, and that is never sustainable. That will not lead to a fulfilling life, and that will just lead down a path of misery, anxiety, depression, you name it. Because how could we possibly be fulfilled when we're constantly waiting for someone to tell us how good we are or what we're worth. And again, yes, people do. Feedback's amazing, and someone can say, oh, you're doing a great job. Let's talk about a pay rise. Absolutely. And that happens and that's fine. But it's still the ultimate underline that we need to break through those societal subliminal messages of someone else knows better than me. Someone will have the right idea for me. And that can never work. Because again, it comes back to, like I said at the very beginning, we are the only person, the only energy that can run inside our body. So we are, in and of ourselves, a complete and utter universe. We have a complete and utter internal world that is completely different to everyone else's. And I mean our filters and interpretations, because our essence, our core, the core energy is all the same. We are all from source, universe, God, whatever word aligns with you. That is the same. But our filters and how we interpret things are different. And that's the core message to shift, that we are the best authority over ourselves. And that's not to say someone can't share an opinion, someone can't teach you or guide you. Absolutely. But we need to know ourselves first as well, to then realize, oh yeah, that makes sense. I might explore this, or no, that really doesn't work for me. So we have the ultimate last decision. We make the choice. We take in the information, but we ultimately know in our core what is true and right for us. And again, that's not coming from ego. That's not coming from power over another. That's not coming from superiority. It can, if you're living just on a mental level, living from the level of mind. Yes, that's exactly how it will appear. But when you get into your body, into your soul, into your heart, that is not how it shows up. So just wanted to share that little episode today. Maybe help you begin to shift and make that connection from inside out living as opposed to outside in. Getting curious and undertaking an inward journey. Asking yourself self-inquiry questions, or getting someone to support you and help you, connecting with someone to help you do that, and really experiencing for yourself this shift, because there is no comparison. I can look back in my life and go, I was not really living. I was existing. I was absolutely existing, but I was not living, because in my experience, we cannot fully begin to live and live this experience fully, authentically, until we connect to the truth of who we are, until we have our own back, until we can approve and validate ourselves. So I invite you to get curious. I hope you got something from today's episode. If you're confused, great, welcome it. The brain is trying to make new connections. Welcome it all. Pop me a message, let me know, and check out my website, soulpowerlight.com. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well, stay happy, and be awake, be alive. Don't just exist. Don't be on autopilot, sleepwalking through life, which again, I can look back and go, oh yeah, that's actually what I was doing, and that's what we do until we wake up, connect to our truth. And this is why I do what I do now in coaching other women on this inward journey to help them essentially crack open to life and to find that self-approval from within. Adios. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you get notified every time a new show is released. Get more information on this week's guest as well on my website, www.soulpowerlight.com.